The night before my husband returned to the capital with an orphan girl, I died. No, to be precise, it was Chu Yaoguang who died. A meticulously planned fire engulfed the Yulan courtyard where I had lived in the general's manor for 3 years, with flames soaring to the sky and thick smoke billowing. Everyone said the general's wife was trapped in the sea of fire, and not even a complete set of remains could be found. Only my personal maid, Qing He, knew that I had personally set that fire. I stood on the Wangyu Tower opposite the general's manor, calmly watching the cage that had imprisoned me for 3 years turn to ashes. Qing He stood behind me, her voice trembling uncontrollably. "My lady, is it really worth it?" I didn't turn back, just gently caressed my still flat belly. A little life once grew there. But the moment I learned of Xiao Jingyuan's betrayal, it quietly left me. Worth it. For a man who didn't love me, I spent my entire immense fortune to help him rise from a nobody to his current position as the general of Dingxi. For his one sentence, "I don't like jealous women," I hid all my adoration deep in my heart, managed the rear household for him, showed filial piety to his harsh mother-in-law, and even welcomed the sworn sister he brought back from the border with a smile. What I got in return in the end was the letter he wrote to that sworn sister, Bai Huayin. "Huayin, I've wronged you. When I achieve success and fame, I will surely welcome you into my mansion with an 8-bearer sedan chair, giving you the most noble honor a woman in this world can have. As for Chu Yaoguang, she is merely a stepping stone for me to reach the top. When the time is right, a letter of divorce will restore your peace." My child is gone. When his father wrote that letter, he quietly left me. The doctor said, "Madam, your excessive grief has damaged your constitution. This child could not be saved." At that moment, something deep inside my heart was burned to ashes along with that great fire. Chu Yaoguang is already dead. The one who survived is the young mistress of the Jiangnan Chu clan's textile business. I took one last look at that sea of fire, turned and said to Qing He, "Let's go, back to Jiangnan. This play in the capital, it is time we watched it from a different position." When Xiao Jingyuan returned to the general's manor, a delicate woman was following behind him, none other than Bai Huayin. She was wearing plain white clothes, her belly was swollen high, and her watery eyes curiously sized up this residence. Xiao Jingyuan frowned and said to the butler who came forward to welcome him, "Why are there white hangings in the manor? It is bad luck, take them all down." The old butler had been with the general's manor for decades and had watched me marry into it. At this moment his eyes were bloodshot as he knelt on the ground, weeping uncontrollably. Xiao Jingyuan's frown deepened. "What are you crying for? I've returned after winning a battle. This is a huge joyous occasion." He supported Bai Huayin, his tone unprecedentedly gentle. "Huayin, you are pregnant. It must have been a hard journey. Let me take you to the main courtyard to rest first. It is quiet there." He then turned his head and said to the butler in a commanding tone, "Go tell the madam to vacate the main courtyard for Huayin to live in. Her body is precious. She can't suffer the slightest grievance." The air was deathly silent. All the servants lowered their heads, their bodies trembling like fallen leaves in the autumn wind. A smug smile appeared on Bai Huayin's face. "Brother Jingyuan, isn't this a bit inappropriate? Big sister is the true mistress of the general's manor." Xiao Jingyuan snorted coldly, his tone full of disdain. "Her, worthy, if it weren't for the bit of wealth from her Chu family. She wouldn't even have the right to step through the gates of my general's manor. This position of the main wife, it will be yours sooner or later." He reassuringly patted Bai Huayin's hand. The old butler finally raised his head, and as if he had used up all his strength, he said clearly, word by word, "General, you cannot speak of the madam that way." "Insolent." "General," the old butler's voice was shrill and desperate. The madam is already gone." The impatience on Xiao Jingyuan's face instantly froze. He looked as if he hadn't heard clearly and asked again, "What did you say?" "Yesterday, a fire broke out in the main courtyard. The madam, she couldn't escape." The butler knelt on the ground. "General, the madam is gone." I could almost see the color draining inch by inch from Xiao Jingyuan's handsome face. He might be shocked, might be in disbelief, but there would absolutely not be a shred of sadness. I know him too well. Sure enough, according to the news Qing he sent back from the capital. After a brief daze, Xiao Jingyuan's first reaction was anger. He grabbed the housekeeper's collar, his eyes bloodshot. Gone. What do you mean, gone alive? I want to see the person dead. I want to see the corpse. Where is the body? The great fire burned for a whole night, leaving nothing behind. They only found the phoenix hairpin the madam always wore. That phoenix hairpin was what he casually picked out from the betrothal gifts and tossed to me when I married him. He said, "Wear it so you don't lose face for my Dingxi general's mansion." I once treated it as a treasure, wearing it every day. Now it has become the proof of my death. Impossible. How could she die? She is someone who cherishes her life so much. Bai Huayan let out a timely gasp, supporting him, her eyes brimming with tears. Brother Jingyuan, don't scare me, sister. How could she? It is all my fault. If it weren't for me, sister might not have given up on life. Her words instantly blamed my death on her and Xiao Jingyuan's return. How clever. She both absolved herself completely and made Xiao Jingyuan feel guilty towards me. Unfortunately, she got one thing wrong. A man like Xiao Jingyuan would never blame himself for his mistakes. He would only think that I was the one who caused him trouble. Shut up. He irritably pushed Bai Huayan away. What does her life or death have to do with you? She was the one who was narrow-minded and couldn't tolerate anyone. He gave the order number, hastily arranged my funeral, and then, on the grounds that Bai Huayan needed to rest and recuperate, he let her move into the manor with a perfectly legitimate reason. The people in the capital were buzzing with discussion about this. Some said I was a beauty with a tragic fate. Some said I brought it on myself. But even more people were watching and waiting for the next move from the manor of the General of Dingxi after all. Standing behind me, Chu Yaoguang, was the Jiangnan Chu cloth business, which was as rich as a nation. The Chu family's only legitimate daughter died under mysterious circumstances. Would the Chu family let it go so easily? They were all waiting for the Chu family to come to the capital to seek justice for me. Xiao Jingyuan was also waiting. While comforting the frightened Bai Huayan, he also sent men on express horses to Jiangnan with a letter. In the letter, his words were earnest, attributing my death to an accident and promising to compensate the Chu family. He thought that now he was a favorite in the emperor's eyes, holding military power, and the Chu family was just a family of merchants, so no matter how rich they were, they'd still have to be wary of him. As long as he gave enough money, he could shut my parents' mouths. He was too full of himself. He doesn't know. The true person in power in the Chu family was never my uncontentious parents. But me 1 month later, the fleet of ships from the Jiangnan Chu family's textile business arrived at the capital's dock. The one leading was not my elderly parents, but a woman wearing a white veil and dressed in a moon-white long dress. She claimed to be the eldest miss of the Chu family's distant female cousin, the current person in charge of the Chu family's textile business, Lin Qingya. Lin is my mother's surname. Everyone was curious, just who on earth was this person in charge of the Chu family who had suddenly appeared. Xiao Jingyuan naturally also received the news. He brought extravagant gifts and personally came to pay a visit. I sat in the main seat of the side courtyard, separated by a beaded curtain, leisurely sipping the newly served spring tea. Qinghe stood by my side and reported in a low voice, "Miss, the general is here." I didn't even raise an eyelid. Let him wait. This wait lasted for a full 2 hours. Xiao Jingyuan's patience was clearly exhausted. I heard his voice, suppressing its anger, from beyond the beaded curtain. "Miss Ava, what great airs you put on. This general personally comes to visit, and you actually make me wait bitterly for a full 2 hours." I put down my teacup, the bottom of the cup colliding with the tabletop, making a crisp, light sound. "The general won a victorious battle. His Majesty personally welcomed you, so of course you are majestic and imposing. It is just that my Chu family is a family of merchants. We don't understand the rules of officialdom. We only recognize our own principles." My voice, having been deliberately altered, had become a bit hoarse, completely different from before. My cousin is barely cold in her grave, and the general is already eager to bring his mistress into the house. Dare I ask, General, where does that leave my Chu family and my cousin who died a wrongful death? Xiao Jingyuan didn't expect a woman would dare to question him so directly. "Miss Ava, watch your words. Huayan is merely my sworn sister, not a mistress." He defended himself, but his tone was somewhat lacking in confidence. "Sworn sister." I let out a light laugh, full of scorn. a sworn sister who is carrying your child. General, are you taking everyone in the world for fools, or do you just think my Chu family is easy to bully? A corner of the beaded curtain was lifted by the wind, and I could see his face instantly darken. I came today to discuss Yao Guang's funeral arrangements and the compensation for the Chu family. If Miss Ava does not wish to talk, I will come again another day. He was clearly angered, wanting to use his status to pressure me. That won't be necessary. I stood up and walked to the beaded curtain. My Chu family will handle the funeral arrangements ourselves, and we cannot accept any compensation. I only have one question for the general. I raised my hand, motioning for Qinghe to roll up the beaded curtain. Xiao Jingyuan's gaze shot straight over. When he saw my veiled face, a flicker of barely perceptible disappointment crossed his eyes. Perhaps he was expecting something. I met his gaze and asked word by word, back then. When you asked my Chu family for my cousin's hand in marriage, did you have even a shred of sincerity? Xiao Jingyuan fell silent. After a long while, he finally spoke coldly. The dead are gone. What is the point of saying all this? There is a point. I stared into his eyes. Because your answer, General, will decide what my Chu family does next. He seemed to find my words a bit ridiculous. The corners of his mouth curved into a mocking arc. Oh, this general would like to hear what the Chu family wants to do. It is very simple. I turned around, leaving him with only my back. To make you lose everything. Xiao Jingyuan left the side courtyard with simmering anger, while I began to lay out my meticulous plan. The first step is to drain Xiao Jingyuan's money bags. A large part of Xiao Jingyuan's money comes from several businesses under his name, the capital's largest silk and satin shop, several grain shops, and a horse farm in the suburbs. And these businesses were originally all bought with my Chu family's money, and even the managers who run these businesses are my Chu family's people. Xiao Jingyuan knows nothing about this. He only thinks those people are his own confidants, who have long since lost any loyalty to me, his deceased wife. The first thing I did after returning to the capital was to secretly summon these managers through Qinghe. When they saw me, every one of them was so emotional that tears streamed down their old faces. Eldest miss, you are still alive. This is wonderful. Eldest miss, the general has gone too far. In the days you've been gone, that woman with the surname Bai has practically emptied out the general's manor. I calmed them down and laid out my entire plan. 3 days later, the capital's largest silk and satin shop, Jingshu Pavilion, suddenly announced, due to a change of owner, business was suspended, and all goods were being cleared out at half price. The moment the news came out, all the madams and young misses in the capital went crazy. Jingshu Pavilion's fabrics had always been the most expensive in the capital. Now that they were being sold at half price, who wouldn't be tempted? In just one day, Jingshu Pavilion's inventory was swept clean, and that huge income quietly flowed into the accounts of my Chu family. Right after that, several of the grain shops under Xiao Jingyuan's name also had problems. Either the granaries unexpectedly got damp, with large areas of grain turning moldy, or the account books had huge holes in them and simply didn't add up. In just half a month, Xiao Jingyuan's several most important sources of income were almost completely cut off by me. He finally realized something was wrong. When he furiously went to settle accounts with those shopkeepers, he found they had all run away, leaving him with only a row of empty shops and a huge mess. Xiao Jingyuan was so angry he smashed everything he could in the study. He wasn't a fool. He knew that behind all of this, the Chu family must be playing tricks, and that it was that veiled Lin Qingye. He came to the villa again. This time, he couldn't even get in the door. The servants at the gate stopped him, saying expressionlessly, "Miss Ava said, she is not seeing any guests." "You dare to stop me?" Xiao Jingyuan was furious. "Get out of my way." The servant stood ramrod straight, not budging an inch. Just as he was about to force his way in, a luxurious horse-drawn carriage stopped at the entrance of the courtyard house. The carriage curtain was lifted, and out walked the current fourth prince. Peiyu was the least favored among all the princes, and also the most low-key one. His birth mother died early. His maternal family had no power, and he had almost no presence in the imperial court. But he was the most suitable ally I had chosen, because I knew a secret Peiyu wasn't as detached from worldly affairs as he appeared. He had been secretly accumulating power, waiting for the right moment. And he lacked money. I have money. Isn't this General Dingshi? Peiyu said, waving his folding fan and smiling like a fox. So worked up, why are you getting mad at a few servants at the entrance of the courtyard house? When Xiao Jingyuan saw Peiyu, his expression changed. He suppressed his anger, cupped his hands in a salute and said, "Greetings, fourth prince." "No need, no need." Peiyu waved his hand and walked straight towards the main gate. "This prince has an appointment with Miss Ava for tea today. If the general has no other business, please leave." The servants guarding the gate immediately and respectfully opened the main gate for Peiyu. Xiao Jingyuan's face instantly turned as black as the bottom of a pot. He could only watch helplessly as Peiyu's figure disappeared behind the gate, while he himself was blocked outside, like a joke. I poured a cup of tea for Peiyu. "Thank you, Your Highness, for helping me out of that situation." Peiyu took the teacup and praised. "Good tea. Miss Ava's way of treating guests is truly unique. Some are turned away at the door, others are treated as honored guests." I smiled. "Your Highness is a guest, so naturally, you must be treated with the courtesy of an honored guest. As for some people, they're just vicious dogs, and kicking them out is getting off lightly." Peiyu burst into laughter. "Miss Ava, you are really a fascinating person. This prince has heard that you've completely emptied Xiao Jingyuan's money pouch." "I was just taking back what rightfully belongs to the Chu family," I said lightly. "Well done." A trace of appreciation flashed in Peiyu's eyes. "Xiao Jingyuan is now the crown prince's man, so you making a move on him is like slapping the crown prince in the face. This prince likes that. My goal is the same as Your Highness's. We both don't want the crown prince to have an easy time," I said bluntly. "Your Highness needs money, and I need power. Our cooperation would be a win-win." Peiyu put down his teacup and said with a serious expression, "How does Miss Ava want to cooperate?" "It is very simple." My voice was calm and firm. "I want Xiao Jingyuan's reputation ruined, and for him to have nothing left. In return, my Chu family will fully support Your Highness in ascending to that position." My words made Peiyu's pupils shrink abruptly. He gave me a deep look, as if trying to see my true face through the veil. After a long moment, he smiled. "Miss Ava, your ambition is even greater than this prince imagined." He stood up and extended his hand to me. "A pleasure to cooperate with you." I shook it lightly. "A pleasure to cooperate with you." Xiao Jingyuan's crisis soon became apparent. The general's manor had huge expenses, and Bai Huayan was a big spendthrift. Xiao Jingyuan started to sell off some of the antiques, calligraphy, and paintings from the manor, and I had the Chu family's trading house buy those things back, piece by piece, at an extremely low price. Among them was a painting by a great master of a previous dynasty, solitary angler on a cold river, which was the birthday gift I had given him. I remember when he received it, a rare smile appeared on his face. He said, "Yao Guang, you are so thoughtful." In the 3 years I was married to him, that was the only time he called me by my name, and not Madam Chu. "No, this painting is back in my hands. It is just that things are not what they used to be." Bai Huayan started to complain that the manor's allowance was not as good as before, complain that the fabric of her newly tailored clothes wasn't good enough, and complain that the styles of her jewelry weren't new enough. Xiao Jingyuan, annoyed to distraction by her nagging, lost his temper at her for the first time. "Enough. Do you think things are still the same as before? Don't you know the situation in the manor?" Bai Huayan was stunned by his yelling, and immediately started to cry aggrievedly. "Brother Jingyuan, you yelled at me. You've never yelled at me before. Is it because Big Sister is gone that you are taking all your anger out on me? The one in my belly is your own flesh and blood." As soon as she cried, Xiao Jingyuan's heart softened. He sighed and softened his tone. "I didn't mean that. It is just that recently money has been really a bit tight." To appease Bai Huayan, and also to solve the current predicament, he thought of a plan to ask the Crown Prince for help. He figured that with the great service he had rendered for the Crown Prince would definitely help him. He went to the Crown Prince's residence in his most presentable court attire, but didn't even get to see the Crown Prince. The steward of the Crown Prince's residence told him, "His Highness the Crown Prince is ill and not receiving visitors." It was like this for 3 days in a row. Xiao Jingyuan finally understood that he had been abandoned by the Crown Prince. A military general without financial support is like a tiger with its fangs pulled out. To the crown prince he had already lost his usefulness. What is more, he had also offended the Chu family. The crown prince didn't want to offend a moneybag as wealthy as a nation for a useless pawn. When Xiao Jingyuan came out of the crown prince's manor, he was distraught. The wind in the capital city seemed even colder than at the frontier. He stood on Juke Avenue watching the bustling traffic, and for the first time, he felt lost and helpless. Just then, he saw me, or rather, Lin Qingya. I was walking out of Zuishanju, the capital's largest restaurant, with the fourth prince, Peiyu. I was still wearing a veil, but that air about me and the prince chatting and laughing happily by my side made me particularly conspicuous in the crowd. Xiao Jingyuan's gaze was like an ice-quenched sword nailed deadly onto me. He walked over towards me. Peiyu stopped in front of me, blocking his way, the smile not reaching his eyes. "General, what a coincidence." Xiao Jingyuan ignored him. His eyes were only looking at me. "Lin Qingya," he called my alias, his voice hoarse. "Let's talk." "I have nothing to talk about with you, General," I replied coldly. "Must you be like this?" he questioned, his tone carrying a trace of grievance he himself hadn't noticed. "Yao Guang is already dead, so what are you doing this for, to get revenge on me?" I almost laughed out loud. "Get revenge on you? You think you are worthy? Everything I've done is just to take back what is mine, to let myself live a more satisfying life. You are overthinking it, General." I walked around him, preparing to get on the carriage. "I do business only for profit, and as for you, General, you are nothing more than an insignificant loser in my business world." "Stop right there." He reached out to grab my wrist, but before his hand could touch me, it was smacked away by Peiyu, Xiao Jingyuan. Peiyu's expression turned completely cold. "Mind your status. Miss Ava is this prince's honored guest. I won't tolerate your insolence." Xiao Jingyuan looked at his hand that had been smacked away, then at my cold side profile, a hint of discomposure and hurt showing in his eyes for the first time. "Lin Qingya," he called to me in a low voice, his voice unexpectedly carrying a trace of pleading. "I am begging you, spare me this one time. I can't lose everything." My steps faltered. Once I also begged him like this, when I was being given a hard time by his mother, forced to kneel in the snow and shivering all over from the cold. I begged him to say a word for me, but he turned a blind eye, walked past me without even sparing me a single glance. No, he has learned how to beg people. A pity. It is too late. I didn't look back and got straight onto the horse carriage. The carriage curtain fell, cutting off his entire line of sight. The carriage slowly started moving, and I heard him from behind, shouting my name in a voice close to despair, "Chu Yaoguang." Not Lin Qingya, but Chu Yaoguang. Xiao Jingyuan's downfall quickly became the latest gossip in the capital. The once immensely glorious General Dingxi now could barely afford to support the servants in his manor, and Bai Huayan also finally couldn't keep up her act anymore. She was no longer that gentle, kind, and naive White Lotus. She started arguing with Xiao Jingyuan, accusing him of being useless and unable to give her the life she wanted. "Xiao Jingyuan, I must have been blind to have followed you. You said you would give me the greatest honor, and what is the result? Following you, I can barely even get a full meal. Isn't the child in your belly mine? Who am I out there toiling and rushing around for? Stop bringing the child into this. If you really cared about me, cared about the child, you wouldn't have let the general's manor become what it is now. It is all because of that Chu Yaoguang. No, that Lin Qingya. You can't even win against a woman. What kind of man are you?" Their argument was relayed to my ears, word for word, by the spy I had planted in the general's manor. As I sipped my tea while listening to Qinghe's report, I felt exceptionally calm. Just then, a commotion erupted outside. A maid ran in frantically. "Miss, this is bad. That Miss Bai from the general of Dingxi's manor has forced her way in with people." Perfect timing. I was just worried this show wouldn't be lively enough. I slowly walked to the front hall. Bai Huayan was sitting in the main seat, sticking out her big belly, and ordering the few house servants she brought with her to smash the hall's furnishings. "Smash it for me. Smash everything in here. A mere merchant's daughter dares to fight with me. Just watch as I make her lose her entire fortune." The servants of the side residence were so stunned by her shrewish, street-cursing display that for a moment, no one dared to step forward and stop her. I leaned against the doorframe and spoke coldly. What an impressive show of power, Miss Bai, trespassing on private property, and even daring to smash things and assault people. Aren't you afraid I'll report you to the authorities and have you thrown in jail? When Bai Huayan saw me, her eyes instantly turned red. She rushed over, pointed at my nose and cursed. You number. It is you. You are the one who made Brother Jingyuan lose everything. You are the one who made us so miserable. I harmed you. I reacted as if I'd heard the biggest joke in the world. Has Miss Bai forgotten who it was that moved into the courtyard my cousin paid for with her life, with a big belly? Bai Huayan's face turned pale. She didn't expect that I would know the contents of the letter. You are talking nonsense, I didn't, she argued back, feigning fierceness but inwardly cowardly. Whether you did or not, you know full well in your heart. I closed in on her step by step. I am making things clear today. Xiao Jingyuan ending up in this state, he deserved it. And as for you, my gaze turned cold. If you dare touch anything that belongs to the Chu family, you'd better be prepared to pay the price. You dare? Bai Huayan shrieked. I am carrying the general's flesh and blood in my belly, the future young general of the general's manor. You just try and lay a finger on me. Is that so? I chuckled lightly, my gaze landing on her belly. The one in this belly, is it really the general's flesh and blood? All the color drained from Bai Huayan's face. She subconsciously took a step back, looking at me in terror. You, what do you know? I know far more than you imagine. I leaned close to her ear and said in a voice only the two of us could hear. For example, that you were overly intimate with Xiao Jingyuan's Deputy General Zhao, at the border. Bai Huayan's body shuddered violently, as if she had been struck by lightning. I know, this child is not Xiao Jingyuan's at all. You just want to use this child to climb the social ladder and become the general's wife, that is all. You are slandering me, she shrieked, trying to push me away. And at the very moment she pushed me, I went with the momentum and fell to the ground. I clutched my lower abdomen and let out a painful groan. Everything happened too fast. Everyone was stunned by this sudden turn of events. Qinghe was the first to react. She rushed over to help me up and glared at Bai Huayan. How dare you to push our young lady? It wasn't me. She fell on her own. She is framing me, Bai Huayan explained frantically. But no one believed her. In everyone's eyes, it was she who had pushed me, the frail and delicate Miss Ava, to the ground. And just then, an urgent and angry voice came from outside the door. Stop. Xiao Jingyuan had arrived. He probably heard that Bai Huayan had come to the courtyard to cause trouble and rushed over. As soon as he entered the door, the scene he saw was me on the ground with a pained expression, while Bai Huayan stood to the side, at a loss. His face instantly turned livid. He rushed over, roughly pushed Bai Huayan aside, and carefully helped me up. How are you? Are you hurt anywhere? His voice carried a hint of nervousness and concern that even he himself hadn't noticed. I leaned against his chest, weakly shaking my head. Then I happened to see the pale-faced Bai Huayan behind him. Like a startled fawn, I immediately struggled out of his embrace and said in a trembling voice, General, don't misunderstand. It has nothing to do with Miss Bai. I fell by accident myself. This act of mine, returning good for evil, made Bai Huayan look even more like a complete villain by contrast. The look in Xiao Jingyuan's eyes as he turned to look at Bai Huayan was as cold as a knife. Didn't I tell you not to come here and cause trouble? Brother Jingyuan, I didn't do it on purpose. It is her, she slandered me. Bai Huayan explained through her tears. Enough. Xiao Jingyuan interrupted her in annoyance. If anything happens to the child in your belly, and Miss Su is also injured, can you bear this responsibility? Guards, take her back to the manor for me, without my order. She is not allowed to take a single step out of her room. Bai Huayan looked at him in disbelief. This was the first time he had treated her so harshly for another woman. She was half dragged, half pulled away by the household servants. Before leaving, she glared at me with a venomous look in her eyes, as if to say, we're not done. Of course I knew we weren't done, because the real show had just begun. After Bai Huayan was grounded, Xiao Jingyuan personally apologized to me. He stood in front of me, his expression complicated. I am sorry, it is my fault for not disciplining her well. I am sorry to have frightened you. I lowered my head, not saying a word, My shoulders just trembled slightly, as if I were crying silently. My show of weakness seemed to touch the softest spot in his heart. He sighed, his voice becoming even softer. I know, you hate me. Everything you've done has been to get revenge for Chu Yaoguang. I didn't. I finally raised my head, meeting his eyes through the veil. I said it, everything I do is just for money. General, you are the one who got in the way of my fortune. He stared into my eyes for a long time. Those eyes were too similar, like that woman who always watched him silently from behind. His Adam's apple bobbed, and he struggled to say, "Can you, for Yaoguang's sake, go easy on us? The general's manner really can't take any more trouble now. For Chu Yaoguang's sake, how ridiculous. When Chu Yaoguang was alive, did you ever, for her sake, show her even a shred of pity now that she is dead? You actually want to use her as your shield." General, I cut him off. My cousin and I were very close. The grievances she suffered when she was alive, I will get them back for her, one by one. My words made him despair completely. He gave a bitter laugh. So, you refuse to let me go? It is not that I won't let you go. I looked at him, saying word by word, "It is that you've never let yourself go." I turned around, no longer looking at him. "General, please leave. You are not welcome here." The news of my injury soon reached the ears of the fourth prince. He immediately came with an imperial physician and a pile of valuable supplements. This grand display of his was clearly a show for everyone in the capital to see. He was announcing to all that Lin Qingye was a person under his protection. Xiao Jingyuan was blocked outside the gate, watching helplessly as Peiyu's carriage drove into the courtyard unimpeded. I could imagine how humiliating and unwilling he must have felt at that moment. Peiyu sat across from me, peeling an apple for me while asking, as if casually, "I heard that Xiao Jingyuan punished that Bai Huayan for your sake today? Your Highness is certainly well informed. It is all over the capital." Peiyu handed me the peeled apple. Everyone saying the general of Dingxi flew into a rage for a beauty. "It seems he cares a great deal for you, his cousin." I didn't take the apple, just said lightly, "He doesn't care about me. He is just afraid I'll cut off his last path to survival." "Oh," Peiyu raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean by that?" He asked the crown prince for help and was rejected. Now he is isolated and helpless in the court. And I am the only hope he can see, the one that can let him make a comeback. I analyzed. He thinks that as long as he pleases me and gets me to relent, the Chu family will help him again. So he punished Bai Huayan for me. It is just a show put on for me to see. Peiyu listened, and then nodded. "Your analysis makes sense, but..." He changed the subject. "I don't think that is entirely it." "Why?" "Because I saw the look in his eyes." Peiyu's gaze deepened. "The way he looks at you isn't like he is looking at a business partner, but more like he is looking at a precious treasure. He is lost and found again." My heart skipped a beat. "Your Highness must be joking." I turned my face away, hiding my emotions. "We've only just met. He probably just sees the shadow of my cousin in me." "Is that so?" Peiyu smiled non-committally. "Perhaps." He didn't continue this topic, but instead brought up another matter. "I found some interesting things. I am sure you'll be interested." As he spoke, he took a letter from his bosom and handed it to me. I opened the letter, and the contents on it made my face change in an instant. The letter was from a spy Peiyu had planted at the border pass. The letter said, Bai Huayan's father was not a captain who died in battle at all, but a corrupt official on the run. Back then, he embezzled the disaster relief funds allocated by the imperial court, causing tens of thousands of victims to become displaced and starve to death everywhere. After the incident came to light, he fled to escape punishment and has been hiding in the borderlands ever since. And he has intricate connections with the official who was in charge of investigating the case back then, who is also the crown prince's maternal grandfather, Grand Tutor Sunday. In other words, Bai Huayan getting close to Xiao Jingyuan was a scheme set up by the crown prince and Grand Tutor Sunday from the very beginning. They wanted to use Bai Huayan to control Xiao Jingyuan, but they didn't expect Xiao Jingyuan to suddenly bring Bai Huayan back to the capital, and they certainly didn't expect me to butt in and mess up all their plans. And what shocked me the most was the last paragraph of the letter. It said that a portion of the disaster relief funds that Bai Huayan's father embezzled back then had flowed to Jiangyan, and the one who received that money was the Chu family's biggest competitor, the Chen family. In an instant, all the clues connected in my mind. The Chen family has always wanted to replace my Chu family as the #1 imperial merchant in Zhongyan, but they lacked the connections, and the crown prince has always wanted to win over the Chu family, but was repeatedly rejected by me, so they colluded together. They wanted to use Bai Huayan to take down Xiao Jingyuan, and then use the Chen family to deal with my Chu family. What a plan to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. My hand holding the letter was trembling slightly, so in the eyes of these powerful and noble people, we merchants are nothing but pawns they can sacrifice at any time. What are you planning to do? Peiyu asked me. I lifted my head, a raging fire of anger burning in my eyes. If they want to play, I'll play with them to the very end. I am going to let them know that pawns can fight back too, and I'll make them suffer a crushing defeat. I anonymously sent that letter to the censorate. Censor Zhang, who was in charge of the censorate, was a famous iron-faced judge in the court, and he loathed corrupt officials the most. After receiving the letter, it was as if he had found a priceless treasure. He immediately submitted a memorial to the emperor, requesting a thorough investigation into the Bai family's corruption case from that year. The emperor was furious and immediately ordered the formation of a special task force, to be presided over by the Minister of the Grand Court of Revision, with Censor Zhang assisting the investigation, and the 4th Prince, Peiyu, supervising. When the news got out, both the Crown Prince and Grand Tutor Sunday panicked. They never expected that this old, cold case would be dug up. They immediately sent people to destroy the evidence, but it was too late. Peiyu's men had already beaten them to it and secured all the evidence. At the same time, I had the Chu family's forces in Zhongyan begin to suppress the Chen family with all their might, cutting off their supply sources, stealing their business, and spreading scandals about their collusion with corrupt officials. The Chen family's foundation was already unstable, and after I pulled these moves, they immediately fell into a state of internal turmoil and external threats. The crown prince lost the Chen family, his money bag, and was also bogged down by the corruption case, unable to fend for himself, and no longer had the energy to care about Xiao Jingyuan's life or death. Xiao Jingyuan had completely become a discarded pawn. Meanwhile, in the general's manor, another good show was unfolding. After Bai Huayan was confined to her quarters, she spent her days washing her face with tears. She sent someone to deliver a letter to her good sister, the wife of Deputy General Zhao, asking her for help. But what she didn't know was that Deputy General Zhao had long been bought off by Peiyu. That letter, asking for help, ultimately fell into Xiao Jingyuan's hands. In the letter, Bai Huayan described in detail her deep affection for Deputy General Zhao, and the truth that the child in her belly was not Xiao Jingyuan's at all. I can imagine how furious and humiliated Xiao Jingyuan must have been when he saw that letter. He had fought on battlefields, killed countless enemies, and prided himself on being a peerless hero. Yet he was made to wear an enormous green hat by a woman, and the subordinate he trusted most. Working together, he stormed into Bai Huayan's room and slammed that letter onto her face. "You number, how dare you betray me?" Seeing the letter, Bai Huayan was scared out of her wits. She knelt on the ground, clinging to Xiao Jingyuan's leg, and pleaded bitterly, "Brother Jingyuan, please listen to my explanation. It is not like that. They framed me, frame you." Xiao Jingyuan sneered, kicking her away with one foot. "The evidence is conclusive, and you still want to argue." Bai Huayan was kicked to the ground by him, and a sharp pain shot through her lower abdomen. She discovered in horror that a warm liquid was flowing out from under her. My stomach hurts so much," she screamed miserably. "The baby! My baby!" Xiao Jingyuan looked at the bloodstain under her, with not a shred of pity in his eyes, only endless disgust and coldness. This spawn should never have come into this world. He turned around indifferently and ordered the servant outside the door, "Throw this woman out of the general's manor for me. From now on, she has absolutely no connection with me and the Dingxi general's manor." Bai Huayan's child was ultimately not saved, and she was also ruthlessly driven out of the general's manor by Xiao Jingyuan. She lost her child, lost her backer, and because of her father's corruption case, became a rat crossing the street, shouted at and beaten by everyone. In the end, she contracted a serious illness in a dilapidated alley in the capital city, and died a miserable death. After dealing with Bai Huayan and the Chen family, my gaze returned to Xiao Jingyuan. He was now deserted by his followers and forsaken by his family, and had nothing. All day long, he shut himself in the study, drowning his sorrows in wine. He began to have frequent hallucinations. He always felt that Chu Yaoguang wasn't dead. He felt that the veiled Lin Qingya was his wife. He started frantically sending people to investigate Lin Qingya's background, but I had long since made thorough preparations, so he couldn't find anything. When he couldn't find anything, he came personally. He came to the villa time and time again, wanting to see me, but I turned him away time and time again. The more he couldn't see me, the more certain he became that I was Chu Yaoguang. Finally, on a stormy night, he got roaring drunk and broke into the villa. He knocked down all the servants and rushed in front of me like an out-of-control beast. He ripped off my veil with a single pull. When he saw my face, which was identical to Chu Yaoguang's, he was stunned. The madness and violence in his eyes instantly faded, replaced by endless ecstasy and disbelief. Yaoguang. He stretched out a trembling hand, wanting to touch my face. It is really you. You are not dead. I looked at him coldly, without moving. I knew it, you wouldn't die. You couldn't bear to leave me, he said incoherently, pulling me tightly into his embrace. I forcefully pushed him away. Let go of me. He looked at me in confusion. Yaoguang, what is wrong with you? It is me, Jingyuan, your husband. I let out a cold laugh. My husband already died, the moment my heart died. Xiao Jingyuan, listen closely. I, Chu Yaoguang, am standing here today not to get back together with you. I am here to take back everything that is mine, and to make you pay the price for what you've done. My words were like a basin of ice water, drenching him from head to toe, chilling him to the bone. The ecstasy on his face froze. Price? What price? Back then, to marry Bai Huayan, didn't you want to give me a letter of divorce? I walked to the writing desk, picked up a brush, and wrote 2 large characters, mutual divorce. I threw that paper in front of him. Now, I am granting your wish. From this day forward, all ties between us are severed, and we have nothing more to do with each other. The divorce paper, like a snowflake, fluttered lightly to the ground in front of him, yet it pressed down on his heart like a heavy mountain. He looked at those 2 characters, his body swayed, and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. He fell straight down. Xiao Jingyuan got sick, very sick. The imperial physician said, the general's condition is due to deep-seated emotional distress, aggravated by a sudden shock. If he is agitated again, I am afraid his life will be in danger. He lay unconscious on the sick bed, but he kept murmuring my name. Yaoguang, don't go. Yaoguang, I was wrong. The old butler knelt outside the courtyard gate, kowtowing until his forehead bled. He begged me to go see the general, saying the general was dying. I didn't go. I just had He send over the remnants of my burned wedding dress. That was the wedding dress I spent 3 months embroidering myself, which once carried all my beautiful fantasies for the future. After Xiao Jingyuan woke up and saw that wedding dress, he held it and cried like a child for an entire night. He finally understood what it was that he had lost. He began to frantically make amends. He sold off the last of the valuables in the general's manor, bought a mansion in the best district of the capital, and put it under my name. He redeemed all the things I had given him from the pawn shop, one by one. He waited at the gate of the courtyard every day, rain or shine, just for a chance to see me. Everyone in the capital said that General Dingxi had gone mad. For a dead ex-wife, he squandered his family fortune and gave up his future. Pei Yu also asked me, do you want to forgive him or not? I will not forgive him. Just then, news came from the palace. The evidence of the Crown Prince's and Grand Tutor Sunday's crimes had been verified. The Emperor was furious, deposed the Crown Prince, and had Grand Tutor Sunday's entire clan executed. In the imperial court, the tides had turned. Due to his merits in the investigation, Pei Yu was entrusted with great responsibility by the Emperor and officially entered the center of power. And Xiao Jingyuan, because he had been abandoned by the Crown Prince, had a blessing in disguise, and was cleared of suspicion in connection with Number, you, the Emperor. Mindful of his past glorious military achievements, and also moved by his current deep love, issued an edict to restore him to his original post. Everything seemed to be developing in a good direction. On the day Xiao Jingyuan was restored to his post, he came before me wearing brand new court robes. He no longer had his previous dejection and wretchedness, but he also lacked the high spirits of his past. His eyes were serene and gentle, like a deep pool, reflecting only my image inside. He didn't speak, just placed something into my hands. It was a letter, the divorce letter he had prepared to write to me back then. Only half of it was written on it. Our marital bond is over, let's part on good terms. After that was a large blank space, and in that blank space he had written a line of words in blood in this life. I will only love Yaoguang. To the highest heavens and down to the yellow springs, I swear never to fail you. But so what? There is too much between us. We can't go back anymore. I looked at him and said calmly, General Chu Yaoguang is already dead. The one who is alive is only Lin Qingya. I turned and left, leaving him standing there alone. The wind lifted the hem of my skirt and also blew away all of the past. From now on, I, Chu Yaoguang, and Xiao Jingyuan will have nothing more to do with each other. End of full text.